Hello, Uta here, with what turns out now to be my last immortality reblooming irises and my last two roses, I think. I'm quite surprised actually that in the middle of October we have these blooming. And let's see, I'm making my own news today. Uh, I am going to reveal the name of the psychologist who I call Dr. Connie in my uh, memoir, In the Curated Woods, True Tales from a Grass Widow. And I decided I'm entitled to do that because she had the gall to submit a sworn affidavit into our divorce case. And this sworn affidavit is dated, I have to look on page 6 for the signature, October 16th, 1996. Now, why do I bring up something like this? The reason is she states the common beliefs from then about the so-called transsexual diagnosis. She made claims about things I have said or how I felt or what my motivations are. And this was submitted into a proceeding in which I was a party. I was actually the plaintiff because I sued Neddy for divorce on the grounds of mental cruelty. And this was because he threatened that what he wanted to do is plan to separate our children, and he would have custody of our older child, and I would have the younger child. And he was never willing to admit that he actually seriously suggested that. And I'm trying to think, he might not technically, well, actually, on a certain way, he might say that he was not technically under the care of Dr. Christine, nickname Connie Wheeler, Wheeler, who is still in practice in New York City. Threatening other trans widows like me with her judgments about our thoughts and our feelings when she has never met us or spoken to us. And yes. And I first met and diagnosed Neddy July 20th, 1993. Met and diagnosed. I have been seeing her on a weekly basis since August 2nd, 1994, for psychiatric evaluation and psychotherapy treatment in conjunction with hormone therapy and gender expression and role progression. So these are all captured words. Hormone therapy, that is not hormone therapy. That is iatrogenic harm from wrong sex hormones. Gender expression is a completely vague, undefined term. And role progression is a made-up thing whereby a therapist is leading the patient into what I call now pink mist world, pink mist land. I don't call it a rabbit hole. It's much, much bigger than a rabbit hole. Okay. Then she says, having knowledge of such a diagnosis understandably requires some background as to the condition's etiology, what it means in an individual's life in general, how this condition will affect job performance. That was a big deal. Dr. Ray Blanchard, who made up the Blanchard protocols of 24/7, for 2 years before you get the letter to take to the surgeon. He required, dude had to keep his job. So this job performance thing is a big piece of it. I think that has to do with the fact that in this cohort way back in the 1980s and 1990s, a lot of them were on drugs. A lot of them were frequenting the bars in drag and also consuming a lot of alcohol. And so, keeping your job was sort of like proof that you are a stable member of society. And these days, that would be totally insignificant because if someone does that while they're on the job, if a man does this identity switch in a job, especially if it's a public sector job, like in a high school, where in my town, in the local high school, there is a man who dresses in dresses and waltzes around the school. I don't know what subject he teaches. I'm sure I'll find out later. And you just are not going to get fired because then the ACLU and GLAAD and Human Rights Commission, is that what it's called? Human Rights, HRC. What is the C for? Anyway, they will come and they will sue the behind off of that town. And so no matter how badly these guys do on the job, they don't get fired until they do something like this Yates guy, Yates. I can't remember where it is. I want to say Virginia or I can't remember, but he posted pornography videos of himself while doing those pornography behaviors and consuming methamphetamine. So he got fired. Yeah. Okay. So Dr. Wheeler continues. Implications in parenting offspring and primarily the application of this condition and the adjustments required to best benefit both Neddy and all other family members. Well, okay, it doesn't benefit. There's no benefit to the wife or the children that he fathered. Of primary importance to understand is that gender identity disorders or gender dysphoria or transsexualism, while quite rare a medical condition, she calls it a medical condition, they like to pretend that for a dude like Neddy, that estrogen was equivalent to insulin for someone with type 1 diabetes. While a quite rare medical condition, and although known throughout history, has been treated medically in this country specifically for over 40 years. She said this in 1996. So that means she's going back to the 1950s. She doesn't happen to leave any references or examples. Maybe she's talking about Christine Jorgensen. It is a condition wherein people are born with the body of one gender and the brain or mental, psychological inner core of the opposite gender. This condition is a birth phenomenon, or perhaps one might call it a birth error. Blame it on God. God made a mistake. As a birth phenomenon, such patients have an awareness of their condition from as far back as they can remember. And this condition remains throughout a person's lifetime. Well, Dr. Christine Wheeler, please look up the YouTube channel, Call Me Sam, of Sam, K-A-Y-E. Sam had taken the name Maya, had all the surgeries, and took on the Maya persona for 25 years. It happened that his father had done the same thing, and Dr. Ray Blanchard, and I guess, I don't know, the other guys, Michael Bailey, Kenneth Zucker, James Cantor, all said that, oh, this case might mean that there is a genetic connection, father to son, in in these transsexual diagnoses. Well, guess what? And they cited Maya K as a case study. Well, guess what, Blanchard, Bailey, Zucker, and Cantor? Your case study evaporated because Maya K detransitioned, goes by his name Sam, and he got the surgery to remove the big breast implants. Why do I say big? Because I've noticed that the surgeons like to upsell to the biggest possible size of breast implants. I noticed this with Neddy. His next second and maybe third breast implants were bigger. And the reason for that is because of the large, wide shoulder girdle, and to have kind of normal female-sized breasts for somebody who isn't shaped like, built like Dolly Parton, then it doesn't look right with the shoulders and the trapezoid muscles and all that. And so they put in the big boob jobs, like, for example, Bruce Caitlyn Jenner. I've started thinking maybe I should just drop those people's last name, and I should just say Bruce Caitlyn, as if Caitlyn was his last name, and I should just say Richard Rachel, as if Richard Rachel Levine's last name was Rachel, and so on like that. That's just an idea. So that deal is that Maya K is not Maya K anymore. He had a very complicated surgery to have the breast implants taken out. He hadn't done the every 10-year replacement, and so scar tissue had grown all over his rib cage, and it was a very complicated surgery, which in Scotland, I can talk about this because he's made it all public on his channel, Call Me Sam. In Scotland, the doctors had to call it sex reassignment, even though it was a return, a re-identification with his biological sex. I'm happy to report that now he's not taking estrogen. His voice has started coming back, and that's a really good sign because with all the estrogen over the years, his voice had diminished to a whisper. Neddy sounds like he used to be a pack-a-day cigarette smoker. That's from the estrogen damage and from the damage of throwing his voice too high. Dr. Christine Wheeler, you should pay attention to these long-term effects. This is just going on this affidavit to page 2. And I'm going to start dedicating all of my videos to a deceased person who had swallowed the Kool-Aid of the pink mist land and gotten the ill-advised operations and then is now dead at a young age. And the person I'm going to mention now actually has a website devoted to him, which is called Light of Yarden, Yarden being spelled Yarden. It's another version of Jordan, the name Jordan. And so Yarden Seveira was 24 when he took his own life after having surgeries in both California and New York. One of the last botched surgeries was at Mount Sinai, where when he tried to go back to speak to those people, those doctors, he got banned. Mount Sinai Hospital banned a person, a dude, with a botched so-called vaginoplasty from their entire premises. They wouldn't let him on the premises to at least try to talk to the surgeons, but he did leave a legacy before he took his own life. This was, I think, just in September of 2024. No, this was in 2021. Sorry, that's somebody else in September of 2024. So Yarden Seveira is now deceased. He lived from 1998 until 2021. And the colon blockage that this vaginoplasty, so-called, resulted in meant that basically his guts were starting to protrude out of that opening that they had made in his pelvis. And, his life was nothing but pain. His guts just did not function. So Dr. Christine Wheeler, still operating in Manhattan, you need to know this stuff. You don't follow up what happens long term. You don't follow up what happens to the trans widows or the children. And too many of those children, like my older son, had suicidal ideation after their father did this. And all of my subscribers and viewers and so on, please do not in any way harass or hassle or threaten Dr. Christine Wheeler. Feel free to look up her address and write her a letter about the long-term effects with very courteous, scientifically based language. Don't play into anything where you can be accused of harassment or threatening. I cannot be accused of harassment because these are her words, which she submitted to court, and I am a party to this action, and it's my prerogative to reveal Dr. Christine Wheeler's words.